So can you tell me and also our listeners, what made you want to become like a mental health life coach in the first place? What made you want to pursue that as like a coach?
I always knew that I wanted to work in this field in some capacity. Before I got into this role, I didn't even know that life coaching even existed. Growing up in my own dysfunction and my family, I wanted to work around domestic violence and child abuse, but I didn't see myself working for CPS or just the system. I don't think it's set up to really protect the children. So I kind of just had it on my heart that I wanted to do something in that regard. And I think for me, it was just kind of a God thing. Like I just started using gifts. I was working in management. I really excelled in just leadership. And I just really have a heart for people. And so I started working with a nonprofit who they were victims of human trafficking. And I ended up mentoring with them and really just sharpening the axe for me and just sharpening my passion. And then I ended up getting an opportunity and they wanted to bring me on as a life coach at their practice. And it was just perfect. It was, everything just fell in place for me. And I think just my drive and my passion to help people and just kind of help them through their problems and a lot of some of the mental health illnesses that they carry. I think everybody should be living a life of purpose and fulfillment. And when I see someone not living their life like that, I'm like, let me help you. Like, you're worth it. You deserve it. And, I come off a little crazy, but I don't care, I want to help people get to that next level.
How does mental health affect you personally, though, on a personal level? I know it affects you as well, even being a life coach, I'm sure, because it affects everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I'm helping a lot of my clients and I'm kind of helping them process through a lot of traumas that they've gone through and a lot of the negative limited beliefs that they have. It's just sometimes, earlier on is very triggering for me because I had a lot of, trauma and dysfunction in my past. And I had to really do a lot of inner work when I was in mentorship with the nonprofit and when I was, doing the life coaching thing, just because it did really hit home for me, some of the topics that we were talking about. So, I had to make sure that I was practicing what I preach. So that, it wasn't telling my clients to do, I have to do it too, because it's just, there's like a formula. If you do it, then it's just your mental health is going to improve.
So have you ever found yourself like, maybe when you're talking or trying to help a client and maybe you hear one of those triggers or something you've been through in your past, do you feel emotional while trying to help them, or do you even feel like you want to cry sometimes, or how does that play out for you?
I'm just very far along in my healing journey that I find a lot of power in everything that I've gone through. And because I can step into that power and that confidence, I can really help them, process and get through and just find their power in things that are what I've gone through as well.
That's wonderful. So could you explain to others, how are you able to get that far into your healing process? Like when you're just starting out and beginning and you are having a really difficult time, you'd say, healing, what's your advice to help somebody to get through that point in their healing process?
I think, first and foremost, find somebody to talk to, hire a therapist, hire a life coach, not because I'm a life coach, but if I knew what I knew now when I was younger, I would have hired somebody on the spot because somebody trained is going to help you, kind of speed up that process. They're going to help you have different perspectives. So it really makes sense of everything that you're trying to heal. I think another thing too is finding your identity outside of your trauma. So a lot of when you go through trauma, you go through a lot of dysfunction, you create an identity with that trauma and that becomes a part of who you are. So it's not like I suffer with depression. I'm depressed, so create that in your brain of I am depressed. That's who I am. And it's very overcome something like that when you are your mental health illness or your trauma or whatever the case, whatever it is that you're struggling with. So creating a different identity outside of what you suffer with and understanding that, you're just as worthy even if you have all of these things that you're dealing with, and starting there is like, you're worthy. That's what it is. You're worthy, and you're worthy of respect. You're worthy of time. You're worthy of love. You're worthy of all these things. So the way that you love other people, and the, like, you know, the way that you would love your hero, and we kind of talked about this last time, but just like the things that you would do for your hero, like you look at this person, you're like, wow, like they're awesome. Like, I'm going to cater this person. I'm going to do everything for that person. You should be doing that for yourself. The level of love that you should have for yourself, the same level that you would have somebody you really look up to.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you know, you're powerful, you're beautiful, you're love, you're the light. And if you don't honor that in you, then you're going to be kind of overwhelmed with a lot of depression and anxiety and negative energy. And when you start harping on that and you become one with all of that negativity, and it's really hard to separate, you know, to look at yourself and say like, oh, I'm worthy of this promotion, or I'm worthy of this relationship, or I'm worthy of whatever. You know, I'm going to go for it. So really just honoring all of the truths in you, that you can do literally anything that you put your mind to. And it's just a matter of taking a goal, what it is, you know. So I want to stop doing self-destructive behaviors. So you identify, what are my self-destructing behaviors? Okay, great. Like, okay, I'm going to start with that. And then you're going to work backwards. So to remove these self-destructive behaviors, I have to love myself more. If I want to love myself more, then I have to, you know, honor my boundaries. If I want my boundaries, I need to identify what my boundaries are. So kind of working backwards, so that way you have little baby chunks and it doesn't feel overwhelming to try and go for this, you know, to try and heal yourself and to try and like go towards your goals. I think another thing is spend a lot of time with yourself. I feel like when you are you have a lot of trauma and things like that, you kind of escape into different things, whether that be sex or alcohol or drugs or friendships or, you know, just whatever it is that's helping you escape, video games, things like that, that kind of from your, absolutely. So be present in where you are. And in that present time, do mindfulness exercises. So meditate, pray if you're, you know, if you're religious, if you believe in a higher power, connect with your source, be one, be present, and practice mindfulness and gratitude and just being here and understand that if you weren't supposed to be here, you wouldn't have woken up this morning.
True.
So when you focus on that and being mindful and being grateful for what you do have, you're focusing more on appreciation than expectation. Because when you focus on expectation, you're always going to be upset because everything's never going to go your way. But when you focus on appreciation, you appreciate everything for what it is and for the value it brings to your life. And you feel fulfilled and joyful in everything that you have. I think that all in a nutshell, it's a lot. It's, you know, kind of broke it down, but
yeah,
when you do see somebody, when you have a therapist or a life coach or somebody, they can help you prioritize those steps and they can help you kind of break them down. And I try to be as much value on my Instagram as well. And I'm going to start actually
I've noticed
now, you know, doing more like just informational videos just to help people actually go steps. Because it seems hard, but it's not hard. It's easy not to do.
Right.
It's also easy to do. So
how do you think mental health affects creatives?
I mean, I think that a handful, if not all creatives, deal with some type of mental health illness on some level, just because of the pressure that you feel from the industry, and just it's, you know, there's a lot of competition and there's a lot of and even just with your creativity, right? That's like vulnerability in form. So it's like you pour your heart out, and that requires you to be vulnerable in front of your competition. So it's like nobody really wants to do that. And it just, you know, creates a lot of pressures and a lot of, you know, negative self-talk, and eventually that manifests itself in different mental health illnesses. And I've just seen myself and just a lot of my friends just coming from more of like a dysfunctional background, and they use that pain to kind of put that into their work. And when you're not healing that part of you and you're just using a creative outlet, it's great that you're doing a creative outlet, but you still have to deal with those demons and
so you got to work on yourself.
yourself.
We talked a little bit about how mental health affects creatives and how it affects you personally. But do you think that creativity can have both a positive and a negative effect on a person's mental health? What would you say?
I think that creativity is a wonderful, like an outlet for you to kind of express yourself in that creative light. And a lot of times you find that fire in you when you are really in a creative space. And, if creativity is your jam, when you do that, it releases endorphins in your brain. So it's like chemically, it also has really good benefits as well. So I think if you are struggling with a mental health illness and you do find joy in creativity, I think that working those into your life more often is a really, really good step towards, healing and just kind of overcoming a lot of trauma that you may be dealing with. Like creativity itself is wonderful, but the creative industry is not always wonderful. And when you're dealing with people, right, that's when things start to get a little messy because people have, they have their own worldview. So you're dealing with somebody who has a whole different reality from what you see. So it's very easy to get bogged down by other people and what they think and what they say and all that.
Yeah. I know some people who even become depressed because they haven't done their craft in a while.
Literally, it's like a vortex cycle. It's so crazy. And even as a creative, I used to dance professionally up north, and then I love to dance. It's just one of my passions, and I love just art and coloring and drawing and stuff like that. I'm not a good artist, but it's just I just love to do it.
Yeah,
I think I'm a good dancer either, but I just love to do it.
You just do it for fun.
That's literally I've always done it just because I love there's nothing
wrong with that.
It's so easy to get like caught up in that vortex of like, oh, I don't have the motivation or whatever, and then it's like, oh my gosh, I haven't like danced or haven't done anything in so long, and then I'm like down on myself. Like I'm a POS, I'm like not worth anything. And then it was like a cycle. And then you start doing it and you're like, you get your groove back and you got the and like, you kind of like, it sucks.
I love that you just like danced a little bit on the podcast.
I dance everywhere.
Please, everybody now who wants to be a guest on the podcast, I highly recommend dancing. It's really good for your mood.
It is.
I think that creatives with depression or anxiety perform better or worse than those without. Why or why not? What would you say?
I want to say that creatives with mental health illnesses, I don't know that I can say that they perform better. I think that when you are struggling with depression and anxiety, it's very easy to not feel like doing your craft and your gifts. You just don't want it. You just don't have the motivation to do it. Like you barely have the motivation to get out of bed. So it's very hard for someone struggling with those illnesses to perform. I would say probably not. I think that depression, anxiety takes a lot of the light away from the creative industry.
So what advice do you have for creatives, or even just people in general, with how to improve on their mental health and overall?
Yeah, I think that getting serious about your mental health is like the main thing. A lot of people just kind of laugh it off. They use humor to kind of, try and cope with what they're feeling. Get serious about yourself. Get serious about your mental health. If you have self-destructive behaviors, like if you're not loving yourself the way that you should, you need to get serious about it, because it can make or break your future. If you want to have a miserable future, then that's okay. Just don't change anything that you're doing. But if you want a future of fulfillment and joy and purpose and potential, then you need to get serious and you need to be intentional about it. So that's number two. There's certain things that you can do that just kind of are like the foundation of your mental health. So that's getting sleep, getting 8 hours of sleep, drinking water, just the basics that most people don't do. Eating healthy, eating vegetables, eating fruits, like feeding your body so that it's nutritious, not just feeding whatever you feel like eating. Those are like the fundamentals of your mental health. And then like the vitamins, are you taking vitamins? Are you, taking supplements that you need? Have you gotten blood work? Have you tested for metals? Like there's just just that in itself could make a world of a difference in how you feel. And just, that's where it starts. Right. So that's the fundamentals. Make sure that you're taking care of all of those things. After that, man, there's so much. I would happy habits. So there's something called happy habits, and that's things that you could do every single day that statistically help you be happier. So that's, you journal for 10 minutes a day, doing mindfulness and gratitude work. So writing 3 things that you're grateful for in your journal every day, walking or doing some type of physical exercise for at least 15 minutes, like minimum. Exercise, reading 10 pages a day. I would say reading 10 pages a day of a personal development book. So if there's something you really want to target, find that targets that and read 10 pages a day, and you'll be surprised. You'll fly through the book and you'll be like, holy moly. For me, like I didn't pick up a book since like high school. Like it just wasn't a thing that I really cared about doing until, a year or two ago, and I was really getting serious about my mental health. And not until recently, you read 10 pages a day, and I flew through like so many books, and I'm like, dang, like I never thought I would ever, because I never like reading.
Right.
But it's not about liking it, and it's not about having the motivation to do it. It's about having the discipline to read 10 pages a day every single day. And if you do that, you're taking your life upward. The happy habits, creating these happy habits for you. Another thing, remove the limited beliefs. And I think that's one of the most important things. Somebody has limited beliefs that are formed based on what they learned from their childhood or based on the traumas that they experienced when they're growing up. So their limited beliefs keep them from being able to really heal themselves. That's like golden barrier that keeps somebody from really being able to heal, is overcoming those limited beliefs of what they think is the truth. Basically, there's ways to do that, but you identify your limited beliefs, you identify, what has it helped in your life, like what has it brought to your life, identify the things that it has harmed in your life. And so that way it can give you a little bit more perspective. And then after that, you're going to create a new belief that serves the true you, like the best version of you. That's the belief that you're going to create. And, just like with anything, like with anytime you want to remove a bad habit, you take a bad, remove it, you have to put it in a better habit. You have to fit something, or else you're going to revert back to what you know. And what you know is usually not positive.
Yeah.
So, anytime you're removing a limited belief or you're trying to get rid of a bad habit, you have to replace it with a good habit. You have to replace it with a better belief. And it's going to be the fundamentals with, taking care of yourself. That's going to be able to speed up the process of your healing. Of like finding a therapist or a life coach to talk to, like having somebody to help you process these things and prioritize. If you're not familiar or you've never tried to heal yourself before, you're like, you just don't know what to do sometimes, but you could be forceful. You can go on Google. A lot of my healing started from literal Google searches. Wow. Like, how do I be happier? How do I become more self-confident? How do I do this? How do I do that? And it literally gives you a list of the things that you can do.
Yeah.
I think also, and this will be like my last thing on this, because I'm like ranting, but there's that you could do, but focus on just getting better 1% every day. A lot of times we get so overwhelmed with like, okay, I want to be this, I want to do this. And it's like, okay, well, like that's pretty big. I don't know how to get there. And then that imposter syndrome kind of steps in, and that negative self-talk steps in. Then you end up never reaching that goal. And what matters is that you're only getting better at least 1%. Just focus on getting better 1%. So even if picking up the book and reading 10 pages a day, but you didn't drink your water and you didn't eat healthy, at least you read 10 pages a day. You know what I'm saying? Don't beat yourself up for not doing the 10 million things that you set out for yourself every single day, because it's just not realistic. Focus on the 1%, and then over time you can increase to 10% to 20% to whatever. Your capacity will get bigger because your perspective will get bigger, and we'll be able to move forward faster.
Wow, that was powerful. Oh boy, I'm like taking all these gems in, like I'm gonna have to have you come back like another time.